The only things you have power over in your life are the things that come from the inside of you. They include thoughts, behavior, and feelings. Once you can manage them effectively, you will quickly achieve any goals that you may have for your life. For you to gain this level of control, you must be aware of the scientific patterns behind your thoughts and emotions and know how to control or direct them. Once you are aware of how your mind works, you can intentionally influence the patterns in your life. You can also be better at evaluating the realities of your life, make better decisions, and enhance your capacity for achieving the goals you have set out. By doing this, you can conclusively determine, control, and improve the quality of your life. The thinking systems. So how does the mind work? From a general view, you have two systems of thinking, the autopilot and the intentional system. The autopilot is run mainly by your intuitions and emotions. It depends on the cognitive processes that happen in the amygdala, those which help us make quick decisions and reflexes, especially in life and death circumstances. This is also the system that determines your daily automated habits. Since there are not many life and death stressors lying around, the autopilot system treats even the small stressors as such. This causes an unnecessarily stressful daily life experience that undermines a person's health and physical well-being. In addition, although the quick judgments we make based on emotions and feelings could feel right, they often lead people to the wrong, predictable, systematic ways. The intentional system is driven by rational thinking, and its processes are conducted in the prefrontal cortex. This thinking system gives you the ability to handle complex mental activities like handling group and individual relationships, probabilistic thinking, reasoning logically, and learning new behavioral patterns. While the automatic system does not require any conscious effort, the intentional system requires your effort to function. However, with the training that occurs as a person grows up, and the motivation to gravitate towards the right systems of behavior, courtesy of the positive payoffs, the intentional system is ideal for situations when the autopilot fails or is likely to lead to mistakes. In most of life's circumstances, you will find that you need the intentional system better than autopilot because your system will rarely want to do the right things. You will not want to work too hard, to wake up early, to save your income, or do any other similar thing. Your body continually seeks comfort, but comfort discourages growth. Recognizing your patterns. As you run on both autopilot and intentional systems, you are likely to develop patterns of behavior. Understanding yourself will require you to follow these behavior patterns so that you know when and how to intervene in them. Although the concept of recognizing patterns is as simple as we say the phrase, the intricacies are a little bit more complicated than that. One of the earliest patterns a human being takes on is knowledge of language structure. Did you know that you can read a jumbled up word so long as its first and last letters stay in their place? This is only possible because you have learned to recognize the structure of the word. When you look at a misspelled word, what comes to mind is what you are used to seeing. If you saw the word order typed O-R-E-D-R, the majority of us would read it as order because the brain will correct it to the version that you are used to seeing. The same phenomenon is applicable in a whole load of things and events in our lives. The sequence of learning and adopting behavior in your life happens in these same stages. First, you establish the meaning of a particular occurrence. Second, you determine how different contexts can change the meaning of the event. Third, you determine what a repeat of the incident could elicit from you in terms of the action you should take. This entire process is what leads to the development of behavior. An event happens, you determine what it would mean in different contexts, and then you figure out what you will do about it. This process happens both when you are on autopilot and intentional systems. Discovering your pattern of behavior. Whenever you visit a therapist, the therapist asks you particular questions, and these questions are intended to discover various patterns in your life, of which you might not be in knowledge. For example, you may go in there seeking help for your anxiety and stress issues, but the anxiety is only a symptom, and you need to get to the root of it to solve it. This is the reason patterns are of great help. Following one will take you straight to the source of the problem. Let's say you have developed the behavior of biting your nails all the time. Although you do not like it, you feel compelled to do it. Here are a few questions that you should answer to determine where your habit originated by establishing a pattern. What makes you feel like you should bite your nails? It could be out of hunger, boredom, or the constant nudge telling you that they are uneven, so you want to even them out. Where are you often when the urge comes up? It could be that you do it anywhere, so long as no one sees you, but you are not shy around people. At what time does the urge to bite nails come mostly? Let's say it comes early in the morning and late in the evening. Who, in particular, do you think causes you to bite your nails? Let's assume you'll say nobody. In situations that are more specific, you have to ask the million-dollar question, why, for each of the answers provided. Look for relationships between the different factors, especially those that are not similar. For example, there are 3 distinct answers to the first question. The 3 options are not similar in any way, yet they result in the same behavior. You will want to ask yourself how hunger even pairs with the other situations listed. Ask yourself whether getting bored can trigger obsessive-compulsive behavior. For this case, though, we have already established that the nail biting was not born out of anxiety, and no person triggers it either. This does not form a pattern. The fact that could somehow ease your understanding of the issue in this case is the timing. You have already established that you bite your nails usually in the mornings and in the evenings, which are typically the times of day when you could be the hungriest. You can now begin to explore in this direction. It could be that your diet is lacking in some nutrients, or that you are barely full, and that is why you get too hungry that you have to chew your nails. From then, you can substitute nail biting with a snack or some food and see whether you note any changes. As you can see, the questions you ask provide a starting point that will eventually lead you to the root cause, so that you can understand behavior and its origins, with the option of making adjustments to cause behavior change. Understanding the negative behavior patterns. It is easy to become hooked up to a behavior pattern that provides a psychological payoff, or a payoff of any other kind, even though it has some downsides. Examples of behavior like this include procrastinating, overeating, excessive spending, and too much TV or internet. The way to overcome behaviors like these is to understand the psychological payoffs associated with each. Once you know this, you will be more effective in handling the situation by establishing the psychological needs entangled in there and finding an alternative way of meeting these needs. Some of the payoffs you are likely to seek in different habits and behavior include emotional payoffs. An unwanted behavior comes with both positive and negative emotional payoffs. While you may be sad that you overslept, you get the thrill of making it in time for work or class. Most negative behaviors are associated with temporary feelings of reduced anxiety. Physical payoffs. Physical payoffs are the intense, short-lived, tangible benefits that keep you longing for the unwanted behavior. An example of a physical payoff is the energy rush that you feel after eating a snack with high sugar content. Situation payoffs. Situation payoffs are the results you get out of doing something unwanted. For example, yelling at your child or your partner could get them to do what you want them to do. This is not to say that this behavior is right in the long term. Thought payoffs. There are a number of payoffs of having unwanted thoughts. They distract you from thinking about a rather painful or troubling thing. They bring the illusion that the person is in charge of what happens to him or her, as a master of his or her destiny. The payoff changes how you think of yourself. Lastly, the payoffs cause you to believe that you deserve the excellent results you are getting. Once you have identified the psychological needs entangled with the unwanted behavior, look for alternative ways to meet those needs. Be involved in the alternative methods at the time when you should be doing the unwanted behavior. Your personality drives your behavior. The behavioral makeup that causes a person to be completely different from another is called a personality type. These behaviors are arranged into various categories, each comprised of two extremes, one on either side. Your behavior should fall somewhere between the two ends. Wherever your character is placed does not indicate superiority. None of the labels on the scale is considered better than another. The groups include the introvert/extrovert. Within minutes of meeting a person, you can tell whether he or she is an extrovert or an introvert. Extroverts are good with networking, oral communication, and creating friendships with others. They are open and outgoing. However, they fail at listening, self-organization, following up on conversation, and keeping appointments. Introverts develop fewer stronger relationships and are better at written than verbal communication compared to extroverts. Introverts have trouble presenting themselves and their work, which often creates problems for them in situations where they have no choice, such as in an office setup where they have to make presentations and sell their ideas. Some introverts are shy, although some are not, and they keep their emotions and thoughts to themselves. Knowing to which category you belong will help you understand the benefits you can bring to the table for your and your team's advantage. It will also help you to understand some of the weaknesses you exhibit and possibly begin to work on them to reduce their influence. For example, if your nerves cannot allow you to speak in public, start some breathing exercises that could calm you down during an anxiety attack. Whenever you want to make important decisions, you will want to see whether it is the extrovert or the introvert in you that is leading you to a particular decision, or whether the decision is driven by rational thinking. Instead, you should speak yourself out of the comfort zone and start to do what will steer you forward into success. Here are some of the questions you can ask yourself, depending on your personality type. As an extrovert, are you burning bridges by not giving relationships you have with people the weight and the respect they deserve? As an introvert, is the failure to speak up during important discussions keeping you from being recognized for your prowess in your field? Ask yourself either of these questions to determine the direction you want to take in your life. Will you take action by learning how to speak better and address people? Or will you cultivate the relationships around you better so that you have a constant source of support from them? Your choice will determine how you behave henceforth. The direct or indirect. This dimension refers to the behavior a person displays towards others. Direct behavior is that which is concise and to the point. Indirect behavior tends to include long conversations to avoid hurting anyone, maintaining political correctness. Extroverted people are liked for their direct approach, and some introverts also pick up on this trait, especially when confronted and triggered to anger or defense mode by threats regarding their projects, families, and teams. The introverts speak up when they are cornered, and if the individual is task-oriented, he will not shy away from taking action. Direct behavior often leads to tangible results because it inspires people to bring up opportunities and threats that could impact the team's performance. However, when overly done, the direct approach could easily spill over to rudeness and insensitivity. On the other hand, indirect behavior is passive. It helps maintain peace between individuals, but it slows productivity and progress. The long conversations could also lead to impatience and misunderstandings. The flight or fight. The body's automated response to a bad situation is to either fight or run away. The fight or flight is not just for unexpected adverse events. It is also applicable to some bad situations that are not so dire, and may offer the individual an opportunity to make up his mind concerning the response he should give. Some people choose to fight, while others take the flight option. A fight person will take a defensive and stubborn stance, while a flight person will try to make an escape or to avoid the situation entirely. One factor that should matter, whether you take the fight or flight option, is the effect that your behavior has on other people. If you take to flight, how is your lack of participation affecting your teammates? If you tend to fight back, you need to determine whether your fighting is challenging the safety of the people around you. Change and no change. Although some people are excited by change, others dread it. The way a person behaves will tell you whether he or she embraces change or doesn't. Many campaigners use change in their slogans as a vehicle for political success, but this does not mean that all people want to change. Change can bring significant positive results, such as starting a revolution that changes the world, but it can also cause atrocities that lead people down an unattractive path. Resistance to change is a barrier to innovation, but it also helps to preserve time-tested strategies that have been a success all along. Identifying where you lie in terms of change will help you to reevaluate your goals to see whether they are too rigid or whether they focus on the right things. Check to see where your ideas will place you in the long term, especially in terms of making you more competitive in your field and in your ability to get the projected results. Rebellious and compliant. Each person has a unique view and an exceptional level of compliance with the rules and regulations that are in place. The attitude that a person has is purely based on his philosophical interpretation of life and within the person's behavior spectrum. A compliant person follows the rules strictly, whether or not they agree with the person's beliefs. He believes that he has a moral duty of obeying the laws. A rebellious person bends the rules just for the sake of going against it entirely, or maybe to achieve particular personal goals. The behavior you portray in line with your following of rules will create either concern or excitement among them. Although being compliant is advantageous, a person should realize that some situations call for you to ditch the old rulebook and pursue a different path. Besides, some rules do not make sense today, and their existence will prevent you from achieving success. Most countries in the world gained their independence by breaking the rules. Innovation and invention are also done by asking questions that go beyond the rules. Fast or slow? From the way an individual conducts his affairs, you can tell whether he or she is fast-paced or slow-paced. A fast-paced person holds his business at a terrific speed. He can think on his feet, and his speed makes him progress quickly and pursue new opportunities. However, this person can be reckless sometimes, and because of this, he could suffer irreparable damage. A slow-paced person is one who carefully scrutinizes every step before he finally makes it. This person easily develops anxiety, especially in situations where resources like time are limited. Although behaving slowly will help you to avoid mistakes and pitfalls that other people fall to, it can also hinder opportunities. The behavioral dimensions briefly discussed above are only a small number from a large lot. They represent some of the core influences of your behavior and those of people around you. Taking note of these behavioral categories for yourself is important because when you know how to behave, you will be aware of how you communicate and act, and how that influences the relationships you have. It is also important because while you can capitalize on the strengths you have discovered, you can as well go ahead and work on reducing the influence and effects of your weaknesses.